Well, I certainly wasn't expecting this. We've been making a bunch of videos about the Edmonton Oilers heading into the Stanley Cup Playoffs of 2025, and it's been a pretty good run. Lots of interesting things to talk about, lots of commentary made by folks like Matthew Tkachuk on the Panthers, Connor McDavid of the Oilers, and a whole bunch of other discourse to be had, but none more surprising and none more interesting than what we're going to be talking about in today's video. Because in this commentary, I wanted to dive into some of the comments made by Leon Draisaitl yesterday after practice that unexpectedly acknowledge, bring up, and in a way, thank the Vancouver Canucks. This will be linked in the description. It's the Leon Draisaitl on the Oilers returning to the Cup Final video from yesterday. It's after practice. It's the scrum in the Oilers locker room. And it's a 4-minute and 30-second video clip. Okay, there's a lot that's talked about. There is a conversation about the Florida Panthers and what kind of a team they are, etc., etc. But one of the biggest things that Leon Draisaitl highlights continuously throughout this interview is the fact that the Oilers are more prepared this year compared to last. They made the Cup Final. They experienced a heartbreaking loss in Game 7, they clawed their way back to Game 7 from being down 3-0, and they picked up a few lessons along the way. The Oilers battled through hell and back in the first, second, and especially second, and third rounds to make the Stanley Cup Finals, and now when you think about it, okay, the only two teams to take the Oilers to 7 games in the past 2 years are the Florida Panthers, who beat the Oilers in 7 in the final last year, and the Vancouver Canucks. Every other series the Oilers have had in this little run of theirs from last year up until now, they've won all their other series in 6 or fewer games. So, yeah, nice to see the Vancouver Canucks continuously being in a good spot here, but, of course, that's just them losing in 7 games last year. Let's talk about what Draisaitl said that I think is super interesting to bring up. Again, video link is in the description. I use the AI machine to transcribe some of the words so that we can screenshot and put what is said on the screen here. Here's a question that Draisaitl gets asked by the reporter. Connor had mentioned after last round, this run so far hasn't been as taxing. Maybe physically, fewer games, but also because it mentally, A, you're used to it, but also you guys have really put yourselves in more better situations. How much more of an advantage can that be when you're not as mentally worn down? Draisaitl says, I don't know about an advantage, but we've certainly handled those situations really well this year through experience through the last couple of years. And I think we've done a really good job of putting ourselves in those situations and not making it as stressful as it maybe has been in the past. So we'll see how much it's going to help us, but I think we've got a lot of guys in here that have their legs and feel really good about themselves. Another question gets tossed Draisaitl's way. Connor talked the other day after the game about how you guys maybe don't let yourselves get too high or too low. Like, what have you seen in terms of maybe leveling out the emotion that came last year? Draisaitl says, yeah, it just comes with experience, right? Like, last year, the Vancouver series was really emotional for everyone, you know? Just through 2 Canadian teams, the media blowing it out, you know? There's just a lot of components that went into that series. I think if you ask everyone, they'll say that that series felt like it took years off our lives. But I think we're just a little bit more mature and know how to be in those situations and know how to stay even keel as everyone talks about. So yeah, so far, it's obviously worked in our advantage. And I found it so interesting that Leon Draisaitl went out of his way, unprompted, unfiltered, just going out there and saying, yeah, remember Vancouver last year? That was really hard on all of us. That was a really emotional, difficult series for our hockey club, and they learned the lessons from battling it out with the Canucks in the ways in which they did. Now, might I remind you, the Vancouver Canucks did have themselves a 3-2 series lead in that playoff run. Series. Yeah. But, of course, we know that the Vancouver Canucks ended up choking. Elias Pettersson did not show up, and the Canucks lost 2 games in a row, game number 6 and game number 7. They got smoked in game 6. then they lost Game 7 by 1 goal. The Canucks were in a pretty difficult spot because all their wins were 1-goal games and they were super tied and all the goals were coming in the last second. JT Miller was putting Vancouver out on top with seconds to go in the third period. Dakota Joshua getting some super clutch goals and Connor Garland all scoring at the same time. That was a really, really long time ago, wasn't it? But I like how Draisaitl acknowledges that the two Canadian cities thing played a really big part in how emotional that series was. The media's hyping it up, there's this rivalry that transcends the provincial border, and a lot of Canucks fans and Oilers fans absolutely want to punch each other's teeth out because both of these teams' fan bases kind of hate each other. Drai's like, yeah, that experience helped us. It helped us learn to be a little bit more even keel, even though that experience took years off of our lives, or it felt like it did. Like, he doesn't say that about Dallas, he doesn't say that even about the Panthers from last year, he says that about Vancouver. Like, okay, obviously the finals last year were so emotional too. The fact that the Oilers were down 3-0 and then they won 3 straight to tie it up and then they lost Game 7 by a goal. So, obviously there's a lot more emotional pressure in a situation in that round of the playoffs versus round 2. But hey, that Canadian argument, man. It's a Vancouver-Edmonton showdown and the Canucks had the upper hand. They just let it slip away from the grasp of their fingertips. So, Draisaitl using this experience, the Oilers using the experience from last year, and their dominance in the playoffs this year to just kind of let them go in on cruise control, not get a little bit too high, not get a little bit too low. They're not getting upset down in themselves. They're just winning games, they're being professional about it. I get Vegas 2023 vibes from the way this Oilers team is conducting their business, how they're winning these games, and how they're choosing to act on and off the ice. It's like business as usual. It's not like, oh yeah, we are so happy we made the final, this is what we always dreamed about. It's like, nah, we expected to be here. We were here last year, we knew we could do it again. Now that we're here, that's just the bar. That's the minimum. And now it's like, okay, they got another 7-game series coming up against Florida. They're now better equipped to deal with that versus last year. And Draisaitl specifically mentions the Vancouver series as being one of the main factors to helping them out there. So I want you to let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about these really surprising comments from Leon Draisaitl talking about how the Canucks helped the Edmonton Oilers in their quest for the Stanley Cup in 2025. Again, the video interview is going to be in the description below, but I want you to let me know in the comments what do you think. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.